Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Stay on Your Bike podcast. This episode is going to be really cool for me because I've been a massive fan of Brook MacDonald for his whole career. So I hope you enjoy this one, and let's welcome Brook MacDonald. I'll pretend I've done my intro, and then I'll just say,
Yeah.
"Well, new new to this, mate."
Yeah, I can imagine it's not easy.
No. Um, cool. Well, welcome to the podcast, Brook MacDonald.
Thanks for having me, Paige.
No worries. Thanks for coming on. You're a very popular man with all the fans, with the race fans and everybody else. So I think everyone's going to be really excited to hear you on this podcast. And yeah, I'm stoked you've come on. Thanks very much.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, first off, let's start with you've just raced an EDR World Cup yesterday. How did you find that?
I was big job. Last enduro race was 20. I think it was 2017 Whistler one when that was a big day too. That was like a massive day. Um, and yesterday kind of like I don't know. It really put into perspective of whether you like riding bikes or not. Because yesterday I enjoyed like most of the stages, but like the liaisons and like the transfer times that we had was horrible, and that just made me dislike biking big time. And like I don't know, I just felt like pushing for 2 hours was not not bike riding at all. So um, the experience wasn't amazing, but the bike riding, like the stages were good. Like I really enjoyed those. Um, Obviously, hadn't really prepared well for that, but short stages were good. Like I think I had a couple of top 40s, but
Cool.
then the longest stages, I was pretty far back on those, but to be expected. But yeah, like I just had a weekend off, so I thought I'd do it, and I just like the fact that you go out and ride around with your mates and race
Yeah.
at the same time, which I think is pretty cool. Um, but yeah, like that definitely put me off racing enduro. What I had to go through yesterday, I guess probably what a lot of people had to go through. Um,
Was
yeah,
it? I heard early on there was was there a big course hole for a while or something after stage one?
yeah. Stage one, I think like for the group A was like 40 minutes.
Right.
Um, and then yeah, for us was like I think 6 minutes from
Okay.
like stage two to maybe stage two to six. So like yeah, like just the times between the stages was super tight. I think we had like yeah maybe like 2 hours to get from stage one to two, and that was yeah I think it was about an hour and a half or an hour 45 of pushing.
Pushing.
Yeah, yeah, it was horrible. Um, so that really didn't set the day off too well, especially with stage one. Stage one was horrible as well. It was like like 90-degree turns to like
Uphill.
small uphills for someone like myself. I was just off a start, crank it into the big gear and leave it in the big gear and forget about
Yeah.
getting to that hill and having to chop down gears. So I yeah had to run up a couple of those hills on that stage. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I just think especially yesterday too, because it was super hot, so just draining, and I had to definitely push from each stage to get to the next stage and make it on time. Like I think stage three for me, I had 10 seconds when I got there, and luckily there was two girls that were behind me that obviously had to drop in for the elite, so that kind of gave me a little bit of time. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a bit of pressure there.
Well, it doesn't sound like the best one to have done really. Um,
No, well, I thought France. France thought that would have been a good place to turn up and race the enduro. But yeah, don't get me wrong, the stages were fun. Like the practice day, I definitely enjoyed the practice day way more than the race day. I realized when I was racing that like the stages were actually a lot flatter than I thought compared to the day before practicing. Obviously, you put in a lot more effort on the race day, so yeah, probably won't be doing one of those again.
that's a shame because some of the ones we've done in the past, they actually were really good, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
pushing,
mean, the ones that I done was sick,
yeah, but
but yeah, it's hard to know where that sport's heading at the moment.
yeah, so I've not been to any of the rounds this year, but I've been watching a bit, but you only see snippets online and stuff, and
Yeah,
talking to people. But yeah, it seemed like 2018 when we were doing it, that it sort of got really um, downhilly. Like
yeah,
up to a point where I guess some of the more established enduro riders were kind of complaining that it was too downhilly. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, when you've come from a downhill background, that's what you want to do. You want to ride your bike downhill, and multiple
well,
stages of what you're riding your bike for.
that's I feel like that's what enduro is about, right? Like pedal up to the stage, ride down it. If there's lifts there, use the lifts. But like to be honest, like there was no people watching yesterday. It was a shame to see like stage 4 was like at the bottom of a lift where it was like a small town,
Right.
and yeah, there was no one there. And then the finish line was pretty quiet. And like I watched a video of Richie come down, and when they announced he won, like people were just standing there, not even like cheering or just
Yeah.
look. It looked bland. It didn't look like anyone really wanted to be there, which is a big shame.
It is because like you'll know like the athletes that are winning the races, um, they're incredible, aren't they? The
Yeah,
fast they're going on the bikes and how good at riding they are and how much work they're putting in, and to do all that and win a World Cup event and not have you want the crowds, don't you? And I was I was saying this to another guest on the podcast. Some of the better venues I've been to are places like Medina and even like the Tweed Valley where I live and the Racing Island. When you've got all the stages on kind of a downhill hill and the crowds they're all in one venue and they can get from one stage to the other to watch. That's a lot better for me, the atmosphere and
yeah,
else. Um,
yeah, and that's what like the guys on my team said as well. They said that Medina was sick. That was like the best race that they'd done. And like for example, yesterday we literally used one lift. There was like 2,500 meters of climbing, and we were surrounded by lifts. The day before, like from stage 1 to stage 2, we used the lift,
yeah,
and like here's me thinking when I practiced on Thursday, like I probably did maybe like three climbs, and then we used lifts. And here's me thinking that on race day, that's exactly what I was doing, but was it was the other way around. I think I pedaled up one hill about 3 or 4 times, and yeah, that sucked.
crap. Yeah.
But
Well, hopefully, you know, like you said, it's a bit weird on the direction the sport's going at the moment. But
yeah,
let's hope that the organisers and the people in charge listen to people like you. And I think predominantly, most people want enduro to be multiple downhill stages. Obviously,
yeah,
you can have a little bit of pedaling in. It doesn't have to be, quite like World Cup downhill, but it can be really fun. Everybody wants to be having fun, and then they're buzzing to do it, aren't they?
yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking about yesterday. I was like thinking about the people that are actually coming along, like to race to give it a crack,
Yeah.
that are not obviously not the world's best, but want to go out and ride with their mates. I thought to myself like, if that was me, I'd be hating this. Like not what I would have signed up for.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Let's hope they listen and take advice,
yeah,
guys. Um, oh well, let's first of all let's take it back to you know when you were growing up and where you grew up and how you got into bikes in the first place, if that's okay.
yeah. So I grew up in a small place called Hawke's Bay, which is east coast of the North Island, in New Zealand, and I grew up around bikes, like not so much push bikes, but a lot of motorbikes. My grandparents had a farm. My cousin raced moto at the time, so yeah, I was lucky enough to get a motorbike for my birthday from my gran, and literally spent most of my weekends and school holidays at the farm riding motorbikes. Um, and I guess like at that time, I didn't really know what. Well, I knew what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an All Black, like every Kiwi kid that plays rugby. So that was like an ambition of mine to get to that point. But um, when I discovered mountain bikes, which I think I was around 11 or 12, just through a old friend that we kind of separated. Um, we went to different schools and then sort of met back up when we were at intermediate. And then, yeah, he was riding bikes at the time and introduced me to mountain biking. And then, yeah, sort of fell in love with it pretty quickly. Started racing. Just we had like a winter series in Wanganui where Blinky and yeah, well, Blinky was from, and Win and Eddie used to board there, so had a pretty good series there. And I used to like play rugby in the morning, and then I would leave in the afternoon and go to Wanganui and race on a Sunday. So it was kind of like a busy time in my life of that sort of teenage era of doing that, and I kind of yeah just decided to go down the path of mountain biking and started racing nationals. I think I started maybe like oh 06. Yeah, oh 06, I think my first nationals was. Um, I did that with my mum and gran and granddad. And yeah, started like winning the under 17s. Like we had like some good riders. So it was like battling between like three of us, which is awesome. And yeah, raced 3 years of that, and then decided to come to Europe in 2008, and because I got selected for Worlds then, so raced Andorra, Fort William, and then World Champs in Val di Sol.
Okay, so that's
Um,
great.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, like that went pretty good. I qualified 56 at Andorra and Fort William, and finished fifth at Val di Sol. So that kind of gave me an idea of, hey, this is something that I could carry on. And I guess probably not at the time realize that it was going to, you know, turn into a career and be a full time job where I earned a proper salary and whatnot. So, yeah. And then,
So in '08, so in sort of age categories, are you the same age as um Josh and like Sam Dale?
yeah, nah, they're a year older than me.
Okay, so you were
So
first
that
junior.
I was first year junior '08,
Okay, so coming
and then
through first year junior is flipping amazing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like racing. Yeah, it was Josh, Sambo, Remy, and Ari Barrett, who was another Kiwi lad.
Yeah.
Um, so like to be up there with them, it was it was a pretty big achievement. And then yeah, going into 2009, I rode with Ancelotti, which was just a what most people would know as a small Italian brand.
How did that
Um,
come about? Like, were you sponsored in '08? Or do you just kind of had your own sort of bike and
no, I just did it off our own back. Like mum and I did a heap of fundraising. Like we'd um, sell firewood, um, sausage sizzles, like at the butcher, like at the butchers in New Zealand. They give you like a barbecue and give you cheap sausages, and you can sit out front of their butcher shop and sell sausages. So we did a bunch of that.
brilliant.
Um, so yeah, that kind of funded the trip to Europe
Yeah,
with in '08, like small sponsors, like friends of friends who gave me like $500 here and $1,000 there. So that
brilliant.
was pretty cool. And then yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head how the Ancelotti deal came about. I think Win had organized something, and then maybe I think they were like keen to have both of us, so that kind of come about. And then yeah, like I think I was 17, um, going to Europe by myself. My stepdad come over with me for like 3 weeks just to get me set up, and we were in like a small village in Italy, sort of in the middle of nowhere. So kind of like a 17-year-old boy going there, not really knowing how everything works. Was kind of like a big shock to the system. But yeah, like I think Win was racing in South Africa the time I was in Europe. So like when my stepdad left, it was just Win and I there. So kind of had to learn how to cook and all of that stuff, which was a big learning curve. But I think it was a great learning curve from a young age
Yeah,
to that put me into a good understanding and perspective of life now. So yeah, I raced a bunch of like Italian Cups, some IXS, and just the World Cups in Europe,
yeah.
and then
Yeah,
World Champs in
I remember.
2009.
Okay, yeah, because I remember it would have been 2009 then at Maribor. I remember you and Win were on the Ancelotti team, like you say, and you were both doing the dual slalom at the dual as it was called then, as well as the or was it four cross then? I can't
No, it
remember.
was full cross.
Four cross then, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
that
you
was sick.
killing it in the mud with the flat pedals on, and
Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah,
was.
yeah. We like took out some heavy hitters that day,
I
and
remember.
I think like I finished like maybe 12th, and Wim was like 10th. So it
Yeah,
was a pretty good day for us.
yeah, it was great. I remember watching it, thinking this is brilliant, and that's
Yeah,
I always saw four cross going, hoping it was going to be a bit more sort of loose and not as groomed, and that and then hoping all the downhills would do it as well as the four cross specific guys, I guess, but kind of didn't go that way in the end.
well, yeah, as you'd know back in the day, that's how it was. Like you race downhill and
Yeah,
four cross. Hey, I mean, when I did it, was sick.
yeah,
It was like there was obviously still like Graves and Slavic and
yeah,
those guys, but I just felt like the tracks were sick. Like I just raced Maribor and Schladming,
yeah,
and those tracks were insane. Like that felt like a proper full cross track, and then it kind of just headed a different direction.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
so and then yeah, 2009 World Champs, um, Canberra.
yeah.
That was that was a pretty special day. Um,
Us.
won won the gold there, um, which is pretty cool because I was racing against like Danny Hart and Sean O'Connor.
Yeah,
So there's like some pretty big names there.
yeah,
And yeah, that was just like my one goal was to win world champs. Um, I went home because I knew it was kind of a flat course. Like at that time, I had no clue on what to do for training. I didn't do any training; I just rode my bike.
so,
So I just yeah, like self-disciplined myself, went and stayed at my grand's house, which was like 40 minutes from where I lived, and spent like 2 3 weeks there before world champs, and just sat on a wind trainer for probably like half an hour, which felt like 2 hours, and I'd just do, you know, maybe like 5 or 6 10-second sprints, and that's what I called training, and
Yeah,
I guess it paid off that day.
yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
are you pretty self motivated yourself for training, or are you kind of person that needs a program?
No, I am pretty self motivated. I definitely like a program. Like, I mean, I could, if I didn't have someone helping me, I for sure could do stuff myself, because I've obviously experienced a lot over the years. But yeah, I feel like I work good off of a program. But for sure, um, like my self discipline and self motivation is always pretty high, especially you know the last few years where it's been like the motivation's been pretty low, but I've been able to, you know, keep
Yeah.
my training and putting in the hard work there. So yeah, I feel like I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, cool. And do you think like doing the rugby, I guess you did it at a pretty high level when you were younger. Do you think that helped in training for biking and stuff?
Yeah, I guess like the build that I had coming from rugby into mountain biking was pretty good. I felt like I was built pretty solid. Um, and I I maintained that for a long time until I actually got a proper trainer. And then I got a proper trainer and I started doing proper training and cut a heap of weight, leaned up a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, that made a huge difference. Definitely made a huge difference with the racing. Um, just being able to actually be fit and, you know, be consistent through a whole year of racing was, yeah, something that like sort of changed my perspective on racing bikes. And I felt like every year it just got harder and harder. I had to train way more.
Mhm.
Whereas, when I first started, all I did was pushed up the hills and rode my bike down it and do any trail riding or anything like that. It never used to be that
Yeah.
compared to now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely changed from even those days when you were doing it sort of mid to late 2000s on it. It's gone a lot more serious, and seems like everybody, even if you're not on a factory team these days, everyone seems to have a training program and a gym program and a nutritional program. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people outside of the biking world don't realize actually how fit you have to be for our sport. They think, oh, you say, yeah, race downhill mountain bikes. They're like, oh, just go down a hill. Like, you wouldn't really have to be fit for that. But it's like, yeah, they don't know actually how much work you have to put into be a downhill racer.
Yeah, for sure. And so um after Worlds, after the Junior Worlds you won in Canberra, um, what did you get a lot more? People coming up to you then, like looking to put you on factory teams and stuff.
To be honest, I actually didn't. Like, I didn't really know where my career was going after that. Um, it wasn't until Matt Whitaker from Wide Open, New Zealand. I don't know if you know Matt. He used to
I
be
know.
on like the Norba series.
Yeah.
Was a mechanic on the Maxis team.
Is that is
I don't
that
know if he
that's not Dog Boy?
Dogboy. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no Dog Boy. Yeah,
yeah. So he obviously he was a massive help in the beginning of my career.
yeah,
He looked after me in the off season with bikes and stuff like that. So yeah, he had a contact with Marcus from MS Racing, and that kind of just worked out, which was awesome because I really didn't know what path I was going down and what I was going to do because I didn't really have any options. So yeah, 2010, I signed with MS Evil and did what did we do? Yeah, 2010 and 11 on Evil, and then 2012 on Mondraker. And I felt like those 3 years were like three really good years for me. Like 2010, I think I had like maybe a couple of top 10s or top 15s.
Yeah.
And I think my best result was like a sixth in Chambéry.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, like I think I finished pretty good in the overall that year. And then 2011 was a real good year. I think I was on and off the podium.
Yeah.
Most races it was, podium and then off the podium and then a podium. So I might got like three or four podiums that year and finished
Awesome.
sixth in the overall.
Yeah, incredible. And
So
what obviously that team that was a brand new bike that Evil produced for that year. Was Matty Lecoinen your teammate the first year?
uh no, I think he left that year. Maybe he signed with you.
So he was on MS Evil the year before you signed.
The year before, I think it was Intense,
Okay, and
2009.
I know Matty rode an Evil for one season, I think.
Oh, it would have been, sorry, it would have probably been '09
Okay,
that he rode at Evil, because then I went on the team and um it was Philip, Polk, Luke
yeah,
Strobel,
yeah,
myself, and Stevie.
yeah. That was a really
And
good team.
yeah, yeah, it was a good team, real good team.
Yeah,
Good, like, great people to be around. Like, Philip Polk was already like pretty established in the
yeah,
mountain bike world when I come into it, so it was a good person to have around. And then also Stevie and Luke too. So
yeah,
yeah, it was a good year. And then yeah, 2011, I finished sixth overall, so that was
yeah.
a huge achievement for me. And then yeah, 2012, I struggled a lot at the start of the season because Mondrake came out with this zero stem, so I started running that at the beginning of the season. Struggled a lot with it,
How
and
was
then
how was the how was obviously you got on well with the Evil bike. Did you like that bike?
yeah, that for sure that bike's probably one of my favorite bikes that I've ridden to date. Um, Really good bike, worked really well.
Yeah.
Just they just at that time we broke a lot of them, um, but I mean they were still really good bikes and worked really well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I guess transitioning onto Mondraker was good too, but just with that zero stem, I struggled a lot with it.
Yeah.
Um, so also yeah, and then yeah, so for the first maybe three World Cups, I struggled, and then went to a normal stem.
So did you just
Like
short a frame and put a normal stem on it?
at the time, I think I was just standard frame with the zero stem, and then yeah, just put I think maybe I was running a 50 mil
Right.
stem. I put that on like 2 weeks before Val d'Isere and
Which
turned up
well,
to Val d'Isere and won a World Cup.
yeah, I was there. I remember that. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a pretty cool day, and that kind of just for me, I guess, proved that the zero stem didn't work for me.
So
Um, and yeah, and then I think that year, like after that, I had some more solid results after that. No podiums, but
mhm.
just solid results, and I think maybe finished like in the top 10 at World Champs and Leo Gang that year.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, like I yeah started, and then I got approached by Martin Whiteley um,
Okay.
through that year, through the middle of that year, and he was yeah, like I vividly remember it was like he said to me, "What do you think you're worth?" And I'm like, "Man, I have no clue what I'm worth."
Yeah. So
And
how did you sort of negotiate your salaries and stuff before that? Did the teams just offer you a salary, or did you tell them what you were
yeah,
looking?
well, I think 2000 and I want to say maybe 2011 was my first year getting a salary. Um, I don't think it was much, maybe like 15, 20,000 euros. But obviously at the time it was huge to me. Like I remember my first paycheck going to the ATM machine and putting my card in and checking my bank balance. I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. um, so yeah, I guess at that time, like, it didn't really matter. I didn't I was just racing my bike and having fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, then Martin come along. Obviously, he's been in the sport for a long time and managed a lot of people. Um, and when I look back on it now, like he is probably one of the greatest person to pick talent out.
Mm. Yeah.
And
That's it.
yeah, and now I look back, I'm like, yeah, you obviously seen something in me.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still working with him. And yeah, he said to me, like, what do you think you're worth? And I was like, I don't have a clue. And he was like, oh, well, this is what I think you're worth. And I was like, what the fuck? No way. And so yeah, going into 2013, I signed with Trek Wheel Racing, which was also the team that he was running. And then yeah, I rode with them, yeah, 13, 14, 15. And I had three solid seasons with them. I had a shoulder injury the first year, which I feel like ruined my season because I started really strong in Fort William.
Yeah.
I finished second there, so I went into Val de Sol um, in a good position, and I crashed there. Went home, had an accident riding, and done my shoulder the day before I flew out for Andorra. Um, and I didn't really know at the time how bad it was. I went and had X-rays, everything was fine. Doctors said you'll be probably sweet in 2 or 3 weeks' time, and it didn't get better. I checked with some people, and um, yeah, it just didn't get better, and I couldn't really ride my bike. And then when I was in Whistler, I went ahead at MRI on it and had torn my rotator cuff, so kind of just rode out the season, and then went home after I think I missed Norway that year. I went home after South Africa World Champs, I think it was. Had shoulder surgery, and that
What
was like
What did they do to repair your rotator cuff?
they just put an anchor in like my shoulder blade and then tied it up, put it back together. That that area of the shoulder, like it doesn't, especially if you properly tear it, it doesn't heal on its own. So there's like minimal blood supply there. So yeah, that was like my first big injury,
Okay.
and I guess like I really didn't have I wasn't surrounded by like the right people, as in physios and people that could give me advice on what to do. I kind of just was seeing a physio that would, see every day patient that doesn't need to
Yeah.
be back to their job super quick, or like, um,
Yeah.
having to do a job like me. and that took me a long time to get my confidence back and have a strong feeling riding. And then yeah, sort of I think it might have been middle of the season. I got a I think it was a fourth place in Leogang. So that was pretty good. Um, and just a bunch of top tens.
Huh?
Maybe another podium that year, I think. Maybe, yeah. Oh no, the following year. The following year I had a really good season. I finished maybe eighth in the overall, had a podium at Wyndham and finished fourth in Huffield at World Champs.
Yeah. Real
So
good.
yeah, that was a really good season. And then that team, I guess, kind of didn't fold, but sort of Trek didn't want to carry on, and
Right.
Martin had to sort of like plan something super quick, which was when the YT come about, and I didn't really have too much options there, and I went to GT for 16, 17.
Just before you go on to that bit, so when you won your World Cup in France, I'm pretty sure you were still on flat pedals then, weren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah. So obviously, I think at that era, Sam was doing well on flats. You were doing really well on flat pedals, and you won a World Cup on flat pedals. When did you decide, and why did you decide to go to clips after that?
um, I think it was 2014. I went to Clips. I think main reason was that I guess the better I was getting, like I just wanted to be able to focus on my riding because flat pedals, your feet blow about so much. And I guess I was just finding that an easier option to eliminate one thing that could go wrong. And Nico Malali, who was my teammate at the time, he's like, you just need to try clips. And I struggled. I really struggled to get used to them. Like I love the feeling of being clipped in, but as soon as my feet come out, I struggled so much to get back into them. And I didn't like that feeling. But once I was clipped in, I was good. Like I didn't have to worry about my feet blowing about. Um, so yeah, I guess that was probably the main reason. And just, I guess, yeah, I don't really know why I went to clips. It was just the option that I tried and found worked pretty good for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just always wondered why, obviously you win a World Cup, you at the top of your sport in the whole world, and obviously it's working for you on flat pedals, and just always, wondered why. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. Same with Blanky, your mate and fellow Kiwi. He won Schlagman World Cup on Yeti on flat pedals, and then
Yeah,
moved over to clips, and I believe he's not won a World Cup since. I just wondered.
nah,
Oh,
same as me.
yeah, it's just
I guess like you do everything to find those milliseconds, and it's just the performance gets higher. So you just look for those marginal gains. And I feel like that was probably a small marginal gain for me.
yeah. And
Um,
can
yeah,
you can you sort of obviously you spent so many years and winning a World Cup is not a lot of people do that. Can you swap back to flat pedals now? So say you got to say they made a new track somewhere that was super steep and off camera and slippy. Would you be happy enough to jump back on flat pedals now, or would you struggle? Do you think?
I think I would struggle. I'd happily do it, but I don't think I would be anywhere to compete with. the top guys. And like for sure after my accident, like my legs, just like the way my legs work and being able to keep my feet on. I do ride a little bit of flats at home, just because I love the feeling of being able to ride flat pedals and have that reminder of how good they are. But yeah, I do struggle. I struggle so much to keep my feet on, especially being on clips for so long. But I feel like it's just a good reminder to switch it up, and it definitely helps, with the skills, and has like over the time helped me with like being able to have the confidence of unclipping in places that I've probably never really had the confidence of unclipping.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, just interesting to for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. I mean, I wish I could still race on flats and be competitive and be up there. But I guess these days, like just the way the tracks are,
Yeah.
and it's so hard. Like Connor Fearon's, I think, the only one that still runs flats and can still rip them and you know make people realize that people still can ride flat pedals and be up there.
Yeah.
Same with Sam as well. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like for Sam going to enduro and winning what 3 world championships on flat pedals
Yeah.
is pretty sick. When that sport is, like there's a lot of climbing in that sport, and there's also a lot of the stages that are long stages and some flat as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's impressive for sure. I mean, I remember I think when Martin Mays was first doing enduro before, Sam even did it when, Martin would have probably still been a junior, but there was no junior category. I'm pretty sure he was getting top threes on flat pedals. And then now, Alex Rideau was third yesterday. He's won an EDR World Cup on flat pedals as well. So, maybe because the enduro is so diverse and you don't know where you're going, the same as in downhill. Maybe you can get away with flat pedals a little bit more on certain tracks.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I feel like, well, I just feel like you for sure have to have your bike set up really well for that too.
Yeah. So cool. Well, so sorry. So then after the track team, you went over to GT.
GT, yeah, joined GT for 2 years.
Yeah.
That was a pretty sick team. It was Win, Sambo, and myself,
Yeah.
and Jackson Frew, who was a junior Aussie kid. And the first year was pretty loose. Like they wanted to kind of change the vibe of GT, and I guess bring back the good
Good.
times. Definitely had good times. We I know that like the first year we had like, I think it was maybe €1,000 weekend budget for beers and barbecue, and Morrison used to stock up on Duvals, and we used to have massive pit parties and
Might have
cook
been
up.
one or two of those.
Yeah, cook up. Yeah, just cook up big barbecues, and everyone used to come around, and yeah, and that like had some all right results, but I really struggled with that bike. Just a bike that didn't suit me,
Yeah.
especially coming from the Mondraker. Oh, sorry, from the Trek. That was a really good bike.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like obviously when I signed with GT, I didn't have any worries about it because G and Rach did so well on that bike,
Yeah.
and I thought, well, if those guys can do well on that, then I shouldn't have a problem. But I guess that bike was designed around those guys and how they rode it, and I felt like sort of at that time that bike was kind of just a bit old and needed updating. So yeah, for those 2 years, I struggled a lot I think my best result was maybe eighth in Mont-Sainte-Anne, and I tell you what, that eighth place run felt like a winning run. It was
Oh,
yeah, it was on the edge, and I felt like I was on the edge all the time, and kind of like super unpredictable on what was going to happen,
yeah,
whether I was going to stay on the bike or not. Um, so yeah, those 2 years were like pretty difficult, and then yeah, they GT wanted to continue, but like for what they offered me, I was just like, no, I can't do another year not knowing whether I'm going to get a new bike or not.
yeah,
And then I re-signed with MS again, which was awesome. I did another three. What did we do? 18, 19, 20, 20. Yeah, 5 years.
yeah. It
I
was a
did
lot.
another five. I did 5 years with them. And yeah, insane season in 2018. I had Laurie, Mike Jones. We had a pretty sick team. Just a good year of bike racing. Went into Croatia, um, pretty strong. I qualified fastest there,
Yeah,
and felt like I probably would have won that race if I didn't crash, but I crashed and wrote myself off pretty
that
big
was
time. And then yeah, had I think uh, maybe two or three podiums that year.
yeah,
Finished, yeah, finished sixth overall
brilliant.
again that year. So that was yeah another solid overall finish. And then
Sure.
yeah, 2019 again another solid season um until Mont-Sainte-Anne and had that big accident, and that kind of yeah changed my life.
Sure, mate. Well, yeah, well, obviously we'll go into that now, but up until that point, obviously, you had a little bit of up and down here and there, but you were always a contender, always, like I said earlier, one of the fans' favorites to, everyone's behind you to try and get you to win and be on the podium, and every time you do well, you're one of the most popular guys. So and obviously you've rode for all them, you know, really good teams. For you, is the obviously the GT team was a bit more, as we say, good times, and it was, that sort of relaxed, more cool vibe, and then some of the other teams, I imagine, Martin's program is much more, dialed and serious. What works for you, and what do you prefer? Would you say?
Um, like for sure, the trick program really gave me a perspective of like professionalism, how a team should be run. I really didn't have to do anything on that team. I just rode my bike. That's all I had to worry about. And I feel like that's how it should be. Um, so I had 3 years of that. I had 3 years of a program that was so well structured, and I learned so much from that, and it just got me into a routine where like I still from those 3 years of being on that team, that routine still exists with me,
Yeah.
and like I for sure enjoyed that, but sometimes it was like it was hard sometimes, and then I got the opportunity just to have a bit of a balance, but when something changes, it's kind of hard to, I guess, go back to what you used to have when someone else runs a team differently.
Yeah.
So when I went from Trek to GT, I definitely missed that scale of how Martin did run a team. Obviously, I enjoyed the difference and the learning part of what I liked and what I didn't.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I definitely do like a structured program. But over the years, I've got to understand and realize that it's not always going to be like that on different teams, and teams operate differently. So I've just been able to adapt to that. And yeah, like the MS, that was like a good change. It was just you know something new, which is always good. Like I feel like new brings so much more motivation, and you can just have like everything to focus on for your racing. You have a new bike, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think a good balance between structured and a little bit loose is good for me. That's what I like. And now I just have a program that is in the middle of that, which I've adapted to and I'm really enjoying.
Good, good. And what would you say, like, obviously, there's different eras of bikes and stuff, but what would you say has been your favorite and bike that you've felt the most comfortable on to get the results that you're looking for out of all the different programs you've been on?
To be honest, I feel like I've been really lucky with the bikes I've ridden. All the bikes that I've ridden have been sick bikes. Um, Obviously, GT, I struggled a lot. And then with the change of the bike and with Mondraker, I also struggled a lot on that too. But to be fair, like I've been really lucky to have good teams and good bikes. Like if I look back, I think probably like the earlier days of when I first started racing. One of my first bikes I bought off of Blinky when he was racing for Gravity Group. I had one of the square frame Turner DHRs.
Yeah.
That bike was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a sick bike. Um, and like, so if I had to rate like the top three bikes that I felt were like the best bikes for me, probably the Iron Horse, the Evil, and the Trek.
Okay. Cool.
The Mondraker for sure was insane bike, like 2018, 19, and 20. That bike was really good. But yeah, like I think probably Evil was is probably still my favorite bike because I just felt like I had so many good results on that, and it was a bike that I just felt like I got on really well with. I guess at the time I didn't know too much about like geometry and kinematics and all of that stuff of how it worked. It was just generally a really good bike that had everything that you could ask for. I mean, Dave Weigel designed it, so I feel like you can't go wrong with a bike that Dave designs.
Yeah. No, but for sure. I've always been a fan of Evil bikes, and just recently I've managed to get hold of one, and first time I've ever rode one, and yeah, it works amazing. Such a
Yeah, I,
fun bike to ride.
I could imagine the bike now works probably just the same as what I used to ride on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Evil, come back and make another downhill bike. That'd be sick. Like,
Yeah, that would be pretty sick.
yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, thanks for that. I think that's really interesting. We've rode a lot of bikes, and it's cool to hear your perspective on what's been your kind of favorites and what's been good.
Yeah,
And then obviously, you had that you've had an amazing career, to be honest, right up until that point. And then, do you want to tell us a bit about the Mont-Sainte-Anne injury? Or I mean, I know most people know about this, and you've told your story, but that was a really tough time, and we were all just looking in from the outside, and incredible to me to see what you went through, and you've come back, and you're now still racing World Cups is just blows my mind. But yeah, feel free to tell us whatever you want about that.
Yeah, I guess looking back at it now, for me at the time, obviously it was a big injury, and I probably was really oblivious to how things would turn out. So my mind was set on racing my bike again. And I think that was what got me through a lot of the rehab and, just the motivation to be able to race my bike again. I think that helped a lot. But yeah, to me, I feel like it's just an injury that I had and got through. Obviously, it was a massive injury, but I never really look back on it or look at it and think, you know, that I'm still racing a bike, because I felt like that was going to be, well, that was my goal and that's what I was going to do.
And what did
And
doctors say? Like, obviously, when you first had that injury and you come out of surgery or what, and sort of start recovering. What did they say to you? Did they?
well, I was very lucky that I wasn't told anything. Like, I wasn't told by my surgeon or any doctors that you weren't going to walk again. Obviously, that there was a high chance that I potentially couldn't walk again. Um, I think I was just super lucky at the time. I was probably at the peak of my, you know, performance. So like everything around me was strong and healthy. So I was able to recover a lot quicker than probably your average person, which, I was very lucky to be able to have that. So yeah, to me, like, I felt the the process of me getting back to racing a bike was super quick. And I was lucky that we went into the year of having COVID. So there was obviously delays in racing and races cancelled. So I had that whole year to recover and, you know, get back to a point where I felt I was able to race again. Um, I
Was there
probably,
was there no point
uh,
where you thought this is? I mean, up until that point, you had an amazing career. Did you never just think this is just too much? Never cross your mind.
nah, I never thought of that, because I was coming off such a high of a season
Yeah,
that in my head, that's what I wanted to go back to doing.
yeah.
I didn't want to leave a sport that, like, where I wanted to end on a note of me, you know, having such a big injury and walking away and saying, "Yep, I'm okay with that," because I wasn't satisfied. Obviously, there was goals that I wanted to try and reach.
Uh-huh.
So my my motivation and my goal was, like, it wasn't to be like, okay, I'm going to race in 2 years' time. It was, okay, I'm going to race that following year, and that's what stuck in my mind for that whole time of my rehab and recovery, which I feel like really got me to the point of racing my bike again in 2020. So yeah, like, I was, I think it was good that there was COVID, and that gave me a lot more time to recover and
So,
get back to somewhat of being able to race my bike again. And yeah, I think, like, if I if I didn't like push to get my rods out of my back, I probably wouldn't be where I am today, because they were a massive factor to the fusion in my back. So I really couldn't ride my bike to the potential I knew I could ride it to. So um, I got those. Well, I got half of them taken out in March 2020, which just changed my life, because it was just something that caused me a lot of pain. um, just everyday pain, which really sucks. So I really pushed to get them out, and then I got them out, and that made a world of difference to everything, just to my everyday living. And then went and raced Prankworks and finished 11th there. And there was there was some decent riders there too. So I kind of felt like, I hadn't left the sport and hadn't missed out on much. Obviously, there was still um, a lot of process and things to be made and gains to be made. But I was back racing and back doing what I loved. So that was an achievement and a win to me.
Sure, mate.
And like obviously the process has been ongoing. Like it's not just a year recovery and I'm back to my normal self. I'm not, I would say I'm not what I used to be, but pretty close to it. And it's almost taken 5 years to get there. Obviously still have, a small amount of back issues and pains and niggles here and there, but it's nothing, that I can't deal with. And I'm just, I guess, lucky to be able to race my bike again and be where I am now.
No, unbelievable, mate. I mean, on top of everything you've achieved with your race results and your career, that that what you've gone through there and proved that you can come back and race at the level that you're racing at is just remarkable. But just shows
Yeah.
like shows how tough a fella you are. You're not you're a tough guy. Like,
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to obviously prove to myself that, anything is achievable. And also, I wanted to prove to people that, like, whatever they were going through or whatever they go through, that, you know, anything is possible, and that if you put your mind to it and believe in yourself and believe that things can be done, um, that's what I felt like I wanted to show the world, and, you know, give them updates on how I'm doing and what I'm doing, and just so they know, and, it gives them a glimmer of hope for whatever they're going through, whether it's, mental health or injuries or, whatever it is. It's just gives them a ray of light that anything is possible.
no, for sure, you're inspirational, to everybody. I mean, I think probably a lot of people on the outside that don't race World Cups and race at the level that you do. I think it's quite hard to actually understand the mental side of racing and performing and injuries and everything else. There's a big part of it's mental, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because at the end of the day, we race down a hill one time, we get one chance, and we we're literally striving for perfection, and you're never going to perfect anything unless you're winning. And even when you're winning, you still want to perfect it more.
Yeah.
But I think, that's that's what it takes. Is there's so much mental preparation and that to our sport and our racing.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Well, so another question I've got, because obviously I know quite a lot of the people that you've been, on teams with, some more than I've known more than others. But who would you say? Maybe three questions here. Who would you say is like been y- your sort of best friend teammate? Who's been a teammate that has helped you get the results that you've got the most, would you say? And then who is just the funniest teammate you've had?
I think I think I've been like very fortunate to have good teammates. Everyone's been different on each team. I think the combination of Strobel, Polk, and Stevie, that was that was amazing. We had such a good friendship between the three of us, and we were literally just racing bikes and partying at the World Cups and just enjoying life. And I feel like those are the people that really gave me the inspiration and yeah, I guess just wanting to race my bike. They like fulfilled everything that I dreamed of doing and just gave me a great outlook on life and I guess how to approach it. So I feel like those three were like really good friends to me. And then yeah, joining what was after that Trek, I had Nico, George, and Greg Williamson. I struggled a lot being on the team with Greg. That was just something that I struggled with and felt like I don't know. I feel like I get on with him way more now than I did on the team. Just I feel like we kind of not butted heads, but just the way I sort of approached things was totally different to the way he approached things. And yeah, obviously George, I grew up racing with George, so we've been great friends for a long time. And then Nico, um, he was so awesome to have around. He was that person who had so much knowledge and understanding of how bikes worked and how to set suspension up. And at that time I kind of had an idea, but not nowhere near as what Nico had.
Oh,
So like, yeah, that was good. I just feel like I've been lucky throughout all my teams to have good teammates, and then like winning Sambo,
yeah,
growing up with Win, and he was kind of like a father figure to me
yeah.
growing up. So he's always, I've always had so much respect for him, and he's always looked after me, and yeah, just being a good person to be around. And same with Sambo,
Yeah.
and then joining Mondraker again, I had Laurie and Mike.
Yeah.
I think Mike's probably been the funniest guy to be around and be on a team with. As you'd know, Pagey, he spent time with you, but that guy is something else. I feel like I've never seen someone eat and drink so much sugar. Do minimal training, but probably one of the most insanest bike riders that raced World Cups.
He's incredible, isn't he? Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, like I've been fortunate to have a lot of good people on my team, and with Laurie too. Like I like being with him was sick because literally 2018 and 2019 we were bouncing off each other. He was, you know, in front of me, and then I was in front of him, and then we finished in the overall. He finished fifth, and I finished sixth. So that was like cool to me because we were just pushing each other, and we wanted to one up each other and be better than the other. But at the same time, we were really good mates as well. So it just kind of made the racing sick and motivated us both to be better than one another.
do you think that helps you on a team if you've got a teammate that's, you both right up at the top like you guys were? Do you think that helps? Because I see some teams that you get the vibe that, one rider doesn't want that other rider to be challenging them on that team. I
Yeah, I definitely
I
feel like they can become a threat. And what was that? Sorry, Paige.
Sorry, yeah, I was just saying, do you think some people take a teammate that's as fast as them as a threat rather than a
Yeah,
good
yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And I think it's just normal for that to happen. But I feel like if you have a good balance between the two riders, that it only makes those two work better. And I feel like probably a prime example is Loic and Finn. And I feel like Loic hates being beaten by Finn and vice versa. Because Finn's come through the ranks and he's always been that shadow of Loic, but now he's kind of there with Loic, and you know I feel like some people don't like that, and I feel like I don't know how that is for Loic, but I could imagine it's definitely a threat to him, and he for sure wouldn't like to be beaten by Finn, a guy who's come through the ranks. And I guess Bruni probably thought that there was going to be a time where Finn was going to be there with him, but at the same time probably didn't know whether that would happen, because Finn did used to crash a lot, and struggle to put race runs together, but always showed that speed and talent there. And I feel like now he's kind of figured that out, and now he's knocking at Bruni's door. And I definitely feel like that there's not tension, but Bruni for sure wouldn't like to be beaten by Finn.
Yeah, that's how it comes across to me, like watching from the outside. But do you think that is also a factor that keeps Bruni at the level that he's at, because he's not only trying to win from himself, but he's also making sure that Finn doesn't beat him? Do you think that helps?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's probably a huge motivation for Bruni to be one step ahead of Finn in everything that he does. And that team is insane. Like, I feel like that team is by far the most dialed team on the circuit now. And they have everything you need to win World Cups. Like, those boys probably don't have a single thing to worry about bar riding their bikes. And that's what you need nowadays to win World Cups and to be on the podium.
Yeah, I was. Well, you've answered my question. I was going to ask you that. What did you think was the most dialed World Cup team to be on? Other and I agree with you. I think now, like the level of the sport and how fast everyone's going and how good everybody's got a decent bike nowadays. Um,
Yeah,
what would you say would be the if you were starting out now? You just come off your junior World Cup win and you got the choice to ride for three teams on the World Cup now that you thought that was going to be the give you the best chance of going from junior into the elite categories and being on the podium. What would you say are the three best programs currently to give you the opportunity for that?
looking like from the outside now, I would say Specialized, Common Cell, Canyon, and the program Mondraker have put together now is insane. I feel like looking at those four teams,
Yeah.
they have they're the teams that kind of put from the outside in the off season. What I see, they put a lot of effort. I think Specialized and Common Cell for sure. Um, Obviously, Specialized having a huge budget, that makes a massive advantage for them straight away. You can do so much, as you know, you can do so much with a big budget. And Common Cell,
I didn't know that, to be honest.
sorry.
I actually wouldn't know that, to be honest.
Well, I guess probably from your point of view of running a team, but like, being
Oh,
a team manager and knowing what budgets
oh,
teams
yeah.
potentially have. Um, yeah, Common Cell for sure. I can see how passionate Max is about racing bikes, and whatever it takes to win, he will do, which is I think is so cool.
I love that he's always at the races as well.
Yeah, Yeah, I think it's insane. I think it's so sick that I just every time I watch him in the finish area, I can just see how passionate he is about racing and about his riders and about his bike.
Yeah,
And obviously, owning a bike company, you want it to be the best. So he will do anything to for it to be the best.
brilliant.
Um,
That's what makes our sport, in my opinion, so good. People like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
passionate.
definitely. But yeah, I think like now where our sport's going, like having a big budget is a massive advantage. It's so much harder with a small team and a small budget. You can't, you know, do those test sessions and have a mechanic wherever your riders are based.
Yeah.
You know, whether fly your riders to the other side of the world if you're living in Australia or New Zealand.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, just it takes a big budget now
Yeah.
to be the best. And I guess it was like with Formula One when Mercedes had an unlimited, well, when there was an unlimited budget, and Mercedes just had an unlimited budget. And I feel like that's kind of where the teams that have the money are going. And I feel like that's, I don't know what Specialized has a budget, but I could imagine it's pretty big. And I know looking from the outside, the operation they run, it's a, you know, the team that you'd want to be on if you wanted to, be on that podium every weekend. I feel like that's the team from the outside looking in
Yeah.
that gives you the best opportunity to be there.
What, in your opinion, what do you think? Like those, I agree. Them teams you mentioned are the big ones that are putting in the time and the effort. It's not just going to the budgeting to go to the races anymore. It's like you've got to have literally a 12-month budget, haven't you? To the amount of testing that people.
Yeah,
What do you think that those sort of teams are whole budget is costing per annum that you're guess?
I I mean, I don't know, like specialized maybe 1.5,
I'd say it'd be more, but
maybe more, maybe 2 mil.
yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? Like
Yeah,
if you think about the riders' salaries, the amount of money it's costing Specialized to develop the bikes, the money
yeah.
that.
Well, it yeah, it could be over 2 million, could be 3 million.
Yeah, I've no clue either, but it's
But
gotta.
I roughly would estimate about, yeah, maybe 2.5 mil probably, because I mean you've got Bruni, the best rider in the world. He's he's on a big salary for sure. And then you've got Jack as mechanic. I'd say he would be on a good salary. Same with Kevin and Finn. Um, then you have Bruni's coach. I'm not sure if like that's a deal with Specialized.
Yeah,
Um, but you've got this group of elite people that all deserve to be paid a salary.
yeah.
And it all adds up pretty quickly. So yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean like Bruni and Finn are testing so much in the off season. I know, Bruni and Jack are constantly testing each month. I don't know how often they test each month, but they test a lot, and you know, that's what you've got to be doing to be the best in the world, and that's what shows
Yeah,
why Bruni is best in the world. I always think about it. I'm like, think about taking Jack away from Bruni and Laurent, and just the team he has around him, and putting him in a foreign team where there's not a massive budget and the equipment and resources that they have now. Like, I wonder where he'd sit. Would he still be able to win a World Cup? Would he still be a podium contender, or would he be like a podium one weekend and a top 10 guy the other? Like, I feel like, you know, he has everything that he needs to be the best. And, like, what would it be like if that was taken away from him and he was on a different team? It would be interesting to know where he would sit. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's the best bike rider in the world, and he's got truck tons of talent. But I feel like the people around him, and the knowledge Jack has, and all the data and the suspension, like when I watch him ride, I just look at him and I'm like, he looks like he's cheating. He just doesn't look like he's doing anything. He's so effortless,
Yeah.
and he just makes it look so easy.
Yeah, his bike's just tracking the ground. He's not bouncing anywhere, is he? But
Yeah, he's like a magic carpet.
yeah, but like you say, he's a phenomenal bike rider and talent. He
Yeah,
was a kid as well, but the way his bike is working for me visually, watching on the screen, it just looks the best.
yeah,
And then obviously now going back to last year, you've got someone like Jackson Goldstone that comes into the mix, and he's literally just bouncing down the track, jumping. He's got so much skill on the bike. He's such a small dude. Like how does he compete with Bruni like he did last year? Do you think?
yeah. I guess like he's growing up from such a young age around mountain bikes, and then being brought into the mountain bike world and bike parks. Because I mean, a lot of our racing now is raced in bike parks, so he has that experience of riding bike parks, bike park turns, and single lines, and being able to go fast. So I feel like that's been a big factor for him, and an advantage which has played in his part of being able to compete it compete with those guys. Don't get me wrong, he's an insane bike rider and so talented. Um, but yeah, I think just that advantage of having that compared to what we started out on was like you know tech tracks, lots of off camber line choices. We don't get that much nowadays, and it doesn't. You know, there's not there's still a lot of thinking to be involved, but not as much as there used to be. And with these younger kids coming through, it's just like they're just willing to risk everything. And I feel like that obviously the older you get, you kind of realize what the risk versus reward is like, and it just it's I feel like it's so much different, and it's changed a lot in the past years.
Yeah, no, for sure it has. I mean, yeah, the younger kids that are coming through, that they've had so much bike time with bike parks being available, and chairlifts and stuff. When I first started, I literally went downhilling at the weekend, and you pushed your bike up the hill and
Yeah,
made runs in, and that was it.
that's exactly how I started too. I'd push my bike up the hill. It might take half an hour, 45 minutes. Do a run down, maybe push up again,
Yeah,
or just you know
yeah,
sections. But now with like the access of gondolas, kids are starting at you know 4 years old. They're riding got chairlifts. So when you like have that the accessibility of that, then there's just going to be so much talent coming out.
yeah, yeah.
And as you can see now, there's just an insane amount of riders and talented bike riders coming through.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah,
And do you think, obviously, the way the sport's going, it seems to me like it's, now that Warner Brothers is involved, it's going kind of even more elitist than it has been. Do you think that's a good direction for the sport, or do you think it's gonna make it harder for the likes of, where we, where you've not been, maybe known or been able to go to all the big events? Do you think it'll make it harder for young talented kids like yourself to make it onto the World Cup circuit?
yeah, they're definitely making it harder, and I don't agree on the way they're trying to change the sport and make the sport. I just don't see why they would make something that was so good to making it not so good. And I've I've been there. I've been through, you know, 13, 14 years of racing mountain bikes and how it was, and I always just go back to how racing was. And like you'd turn up to practice and you'd have a whole day practice. You could bang 6, 7 runs out and still chill. Now, like for example, for me with like, I have played 67 or whatever, like 70. We have 2 hours in the morning practice, 2 hours in the afternoon, and then you go into quali and semi. Have an hour practice in the morning. Like, I literally don't have time to sit down,
Yeah,
mentally prepare myself, like regroup and get into the right state that I want to be in, to then go up and try and put a rundown, which I feel like nowadays is actually a race run.
yeah,
And then whether you make semis or not, you go to semis and you got to do that all over again within the space of, whether you qualify 50 to 60, you don't have much time between semis and qualies and semis to go up and do another run where you have to go faster.
yeah.
And like, to me, it's just killing the sport. Like, I just don't understand why you change something that was good already.
Mm.
Um, I feel like people don't follow it as much anymore. Um, you know, I just overall I think they're killing the sport. Um, and there's no feeder. It doesn't seem like there's any feeder racing to lead into
Well,
racing World Cups.
I mean, I've thought about this a lot myself, and if they're saying that there needs to be feeder races to get you to that level, once once if they make the World Cup that elitist, where you're gonna maybe have what 10, 20 big teams, there's gonna be no budget left, especially at the moment for other people to get sponsored to go to these feeder races, is there?
No,
Feeder race is going to still cost a load of money to put on. So you've
yeah,
got an organizer that needs sponsors to put that event on. Then riders at the level to make it to the World Cup need to get some money in to be sponsored to be able to do those feeder races. I just don't see how it's
yeah.
going to work.
No, I don't either. And the I don't know, the way I see it and the way it feels is like they're trying to be like Formula One, but you're never going to be like Formula One. You can't go out and buy a Formula One car.
No,
We don't have like, you know multiple millionaire billionaire people turning up to watch our race.
no.
Like,
It's a working man's sport, isn't it?
yeah, people can go out and buy bikes.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
cool sport, and
yeah,
it's
it's
not
a cool
Formula
sport. Yeah. And like, for example, Fort William this year, that was the worst I've seen Fort William. And like, I watched the last 10 come down, and that was an hour of racing. And to be honest, it was so boring because the splits were so long. Pet, fans weren't really getting into it.
One.
I just think they're taking away the aspect of what racing used to be like, like how exciting it used to be. Like, splits used to be quite short, so give people an idea if someone was up or down, and tracks I think were better, so people were getting a bit more looser, and just that excitement I feel like it's getting taken away because tracks are so much more faster and straighter, one lined, and that's where our sport's going. And like, to be honest, I don't like seeing it go that way because I grew up around um, how it used to be, well, how it was, and that was sick. And that's why I chose to do this sport, because I had, the people to look up to, like Sam and Steve and Minar and those guys, and watching them actually ride a bike properly was sick. And yeah, I don't know, it just to me, like I last year I struggled, and this year I've struggled even more, and it's kind of like making me lose the love for the sport and the feeling of why I'm actually racing bikes. Like I don't really enjoy going to races and having minimal time to try and practice and having 300 people racing and trying to do practice runs and there's people on the track and
Yeah.
just so much stuff has changed, and I just see it benefiting the people that wants to benefit and not benefiting the people that actually make the sport and have grown the sport. Like I feel like they don't care about us. Like they are just after wanting to
Like it seems
grow.
like a production of they're trying to do it just for a TV production now.
Yeah, yeah, literally. That's what it seems like. And it's a shame because, when Red Bull TV ran it, it was so well run, and you just had people around that knew what they were doing and how
Yeah,
to run. Like in Fort William, they had the finish line. The finish line was at the top of the small step down, so you couldn't even see you know each rider's splits or where everyone was sitting. And then they had two other massive screens, and on the finish line boards they had one person's time, and then on the other board they had another person, and then this other big board they had someone riding.
yeah. It was confusing to me, so I don't even, if you weren't involved in the sport as much as we are, that people must have just thought, what's going on?
Yeah,
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 yeah. And yeah, like Fort William, as you know, that's like the biggest event that we have most years, like probably apart from Leger, but that's where a lot of people turn up, and there was that area at the bottom was not full at all, and it just felt it didn't feel like a
yeah,
World Cup. And even like Poland too, like they had people had to pay to get in to watch, and they had barriers where the people could stand outside the barriers and watch and not actually be interacting with the riders or be feel like they're a part of
yeah.
the fans and watching the race.
That was what was good about our sport, wasn't it? Like
Yeah,
so accessible to the fans, and so the fans could come and be really close to you guys,
yep,
and that's where you're going to get the interest from, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And it's just like from what I heard, it's going to push teams out for next year. I think maybe they're cutting it down to maybe like 20 or 25 teams, maybe less.
That was the rumor I heard as well. Yeah,
And yeah, that sucks because it's just taking away all the potential riders that are coming through. But again, it just makes it so much harder for the privateers and the teams that have smaller budgets that can't
yeah,
work around this program and
yeah,
schedule of how they run everything. It probably would work a little bit better if they got rid of semis, and I don't know why they didn't get rid of it this year because last year it didn't work. And I don't. No one wants to watch a race for 3.5 hours. Like that's like last year was like I didn't go through to finals very often, but I would watch semis and finals, and I was bored by the time
yeah. It's
top
too
10 would come down.
it's too long, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope. I guess it's not happening, and I'm not in any team meetings anymore. But I just don't understand why the people in charge are not, you know, are not listening to you guys that have done it for a lot longer than they have.
No,
It blows me
it's
mind.
a
Like,
shame because we're the people that make the sport,
yeah,
and like you should be listening to the people that make the sport. And these riders that are coming through and that sort of thing need to, I feel like, have a sport that's going to be long lasting for them that they're going to enjoy, because I feel like you get to a point like there's gonna be riders that have massive highs, and then they're gonna get to a point where they go to a low and then they struggle, and they're gonna be like, well, this is not the sport that I
Yeah.
wanted to race, not what I you know seen Sam Hill and Steve Peat doing back in those days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I think it'd be much better if, like you said, your first day of practice was just a big day, and you had time to learn the track, chill a bit. Like Sam always said that to me as well. When you're trying to rush it and it just doesn't become as fun.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I feel like I'm just rushed. I don't, again, when you have a big budget, you can have people on the track like spotting your lines and all of that stuff. Same with like Common Sound Specialized, they have that. That's one less thing that you're taking away that you don't have to focus on,
Mm.
or you need to focus on riding your bike, setting it up somewhat. Like for me, for example, I feel like I go a whole practice day. Sometimes I go around in circles just trying to find a spot where I feel comfortable. And
Yeah,
that isn't what you should be doing. You should be focusing on your lines and your speed and riding. But when you add that in, it just makes it so much more stressful.
yeah, yeah. It's not enjoyable, and by the time
Nah,
you've got to do your quali, you're not ready for it, really, are you? You still
nah,
think you've either set your bike up and not learnt your lines, or you've learnt your lines and your bike's not set up perfectly.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly how I feel.
Well, I mean, I don't know how it needs to go, but I think you guys need to all get together and go and tell them this stuff, and
Yeah,
you know
but
the,
then again, you have the people that it's not a problem to because they have all the resources and they're benefiting from it. I
it's
don't know.
that's a lot of them people involved in them programs haven't always had it that way. Uh,
No,
so if I was part of one of them programs, I'd want to listen to you guys and not just kind of be greedy for myself. But who knows? But yeah, I
yeah,
100% agree with you. Well, what's obviously you're on a a really cool program now, a much smaller program than some of the programs you've been on. But how's that? Obviously, you're not probably not got all the resources that some of the other teams have, but the team looks cool. I really like the look of the bikes and stuff. How's that going?
yeah. It's going really good. Smaller program, which I'm enjoying. Just learning the fact that we don't have a great big budget and adapting to that, which has been cool. Bikes sick. I love the bike. Um, Obviously, it was a late um, a late decision with whether Forbidden were going to race downhill or not. So that the contract come late, like mid January. So I didn't get to spend a whole heap of time on the bike and setting it up. So kind of coming to the World Cup season,
Yeah,
um, obviously not overly prepared, but to me, I felt like in myself, I felt prepared and gave everything I could, but nothing's really worked out in my favor in the way I'd hoped it to work out. But that's okay. You know, got good people around me. Maddie is an awesome guy. Yeah, just runs a good program, and we have good equipment. So yeah, I'm more than happy with how everything's going. I've never had rock shocks or SRAM, so that's a first for me, which obviously they're pretty well established in the mountain biking industry, and it's always been, you know, a dream of mine to ride for those guys. So that's been really cool, and that was an easy transition. Um, their products are amazing.
yeah,
They do a really good job of all of that, and yeah, the bike is good too. I love that bike. kind of works really well for me, and I feel like it fits my style. So yeah, overall, happy with the team and everything and how everything's going. Obviously, not so much happy with my results, but yeah, just dealing with a lot of other stuff that doesn't really help with trying to race a bike too. So
So,
yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, from the outside, it looks a cool program. You know, you guys are doing a good job. It's definitely a brand that if I was a privateer, I'd want to buy into from what you guys are doing. I think you're
yeah,
doing a job, and like you say, there's certain times in your life and your career that you dealing it doesn't go your way race wise, but I'm sure you can turn that around and get some really good results that you're capable of.
yeah. I feel like I'm definitely capable of the results that I want. It's just I just really struggle with the semis and or the qualies and semis. Like I just really haven't wrapped my head around that because obviously being so used to qualifying and then going to finals
Yeah,
has is ingrained into my brain, and that's the process that I've learned for many years, and then trying to change that um, has been really difficult. So yeah,
yeah.
I feel like
Is
when I
it?
ride in,
There's a lot of established super fast guys that seem to be struggling with the same thing as
yeah,
you
yep,
do.
yeah, I'm definitely not the only one that is struggling, but yeah, like I find practice and stuff that I ride fast, and I feel like I'm up there, but then just trying to put it together. I think just having such a high number and that stress of you know finishing my not being able to get my 2 runs or 3 runs in and go back to my pit and relax and have some food.
Yeah,
In my brain, I'm like, yeah, in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna do my practice when I want, like in that time. I shouldn't be able to have to stress about, okay, I've got to go up at 11 o'clock and do 2 practice runs straight away because I'm so used to being like, okay, I'm going to do a practice run early on in the morning, and then I'm going to wait. If it's been wet, the track's been wet, I'm going to wait till it to dry out a little bit. But you don't have that now. And like, if I leave my practice to the last minute, then I don't have much time to prepare myself to go up for my quality run. So that's been a big struggle for me because the stress and trying to mentally prepare myself to, throw myself down a hill at 110% just to get through to semis
yeah.
is not easy.
No, for sure. And then the added pressure that when you're in that situation that you might not make it, that's just more stress that you
Oh,
is
yeah.
affect your race run.
Especially going from someone that, you know, would qualify every weekend and it wasn't an issue. I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
Whereas now it is an issue.
yeah, yeah. It's must be tough. Well, I hope you can figure it out, and I'm sure you will, mate.
Yeah. Thanks,
Definitely.
Paige.
And what's tell me this, out of all the years you've raced the Downhill World Cup, what would you say has been your most favorite track?
Ooh. Um, Mont-Sainte-Anne's always been a favorite of mine.
Yeah,
Obviously, the earlier years going there was insane. That was just a track that sort of suited me,
yeah,
um, and just had was a track built for my style. But as you know, like going to the same track over and over again, it kind of gets pretty hard to go back there and be motivated to enjoy that track. But that has always been my favorite track. I think Chambéry also is definitely up there.
cool.
Um, yeah, but I would say also what was the track that Sam won at the French round?
Oh, Maribel.
Mirabel. That was a sick track.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I never
That was a proper downhill track.
Yeah, I never got to ride that, but for me, that was probably the last coolest track I've seen in a
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Just
yeah. That was like,
how off
and
camber, everything.
yeah, a new track that was brought in was, yeah. I think that's Mirabelle was probably the last cool cool track that was to be brought in and being a proper downhill track.
Yeah, for sure. I wish they would again listen to you guys on the track choices and that
Yeah,
you go back and look at some of the footage and some people say, oh, it's old footage, it's changed, but you just have to watch it, and if it looks cool and it looks exciting, that's how it should be, innit?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I totally agree.
yeah, brilliant. Well, yeah, hopefully they'll get a race back in Maribel. I guess don't know why they couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they couldn't get races back to where we used to race.
Yeah, because yeah, there's nothing wrong with a lot of those tracks. I mean,
Nah.
remember, I don't think you'd have done it. It was before your time, but there was obviously you've got Leger next week, but just around the Lake Geneva, there was a World Cup they held for a few years in Lausanne. It was literally probably an hour away, and that
Okay.
that was one of my most favorite tracks. It
Yeah.
was incredible, like really natural and flat out, and
Probably
uh,
would have been a proper like 6 minute trek too, eh?
yeah, it was amazing, especially in the mud. Uh,
Yeah.
and I guess a little bit like how Val de Sol was the other week. What some of those tracks they had bigger margins in the races because the tracks were more difficult. So people were
Yeah.
mistakes and there was line choices, and if you really let it go, you could make those bigger time gaps than some of the current tracks where seems like first to 60s nearly going the same speed.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. It's definitely like that. I mean, last week in Val d'Isole, that was something else. What Amaury done there, put 5 seconds into everyone, well, into second place. But again, like Val d'Isole is, it's kind of heading towards like a bike park. A lot of it is
yeah,
bike parkish.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, but
Well, anyway, we'll see how the sport goes, and like I say, I hope they listen to you guys because
yeah,
they should do. Um, And so obviously you've only got a few days now, and then you'll be, I guess, practicing at Leger. Is that a track that
yeah, yeah. I definitely like Leger. It's been hasn't like given me good results, but it's a track that I enjoy. That kind of feels like somewhat of a downhill track. Um, it'll be interesting to see if they've made any changes this year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and then I'll be home for 6 weeks to regroup and go again. The season, I mean, it's almost over. We have Leger and Ludenville, and then Mont-Sainte-Anne. So literally 3 more races. Well, world champs as well.
yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
gone fast.
yeah, gone super fast.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Brooke.
Yeah, thank
Really,
you, Paige.
I'm always rooting for you on the sidelines, and
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
you should be really proud of everything you've done. You're an incredible person, an incredible athlete, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks for being you, mate.
Thank you.
Cool. Well,
All
I'll s-
right.
I'll see you next week. You
I'll see you next week.
get some rest, and thanks very much.
Welcome. Thanks,
Cheers.
Paige. Catch you later.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.
See ya. Bye.
I hope everyone enjoyed that episode as much as I did. It was great chatting to Brooke. And please, will you like, subscribe, and comment because that helps us with what we're doing. And yeah, look forward to another episode next week. Please tune in and see you all soon. Cheers.